Dudes, hello and welcome. This is Trent with Aquatic Moon, of course, and I've got an update for the Ikeda video game. I've done a lot of little tweaks and adjustments to the alpha. You can, of course, if you haven't played it yet, you can swing on over to the Gumroad link in the text field below the video if you like what you see. This isn't going to be about art or art development or anything like that. This is really just sort of a developer update. I wanted to let you guys know some of the new features that I've added and some of the things that I've done to polish and overall improve the game, really. So, and now I'm going to be back with some cool like Photoshop and Sketchbook Pro tutorials and overall painting tutorials, probably like tomorrow. Don't worry. This is just a little dev diary on a project that some people have been very involved with helping me to improve Ikeda, and I want to give you guys an update. If you already picked it up, you can get the latest stuff, and it's a lot more easy to play, a lot more fun. I shouldn't say easy. It's still challenging, but it's just more fun without the punishment of the difficulty that it had before. Let's just jump into it. Enough with the explaining, over-explaining everything all the time. Yeesh. So probably the biggest thing that I added was this briefing here, and this really just gives us a little bit of context for the story, and I wouldn't even say that this is necessarily a definitive script. I'm still adding to it and making little adjustments and things like that, but it should give the player some sense of context, a little bit more information about the characters and the world. This particular scene, though, I mean, I kind of had to figure out how to program a sequence of events, so it'll automatically move forward if you don't touch anything, but if you hit the X button, you can skip ahead, basically, through some of the cutscenes and just jump through the text a little bit more. And it kind of tells a story of what a scrap hunter is, basically. It just kind of defines it just a little bit more, and what their mission is, what their goal is, and what they're after, which is basically just to collect AI cores. They're sort of like bounty hunters for rogue mechs. As far as gameplay goes, I've added this world map, which is sort of a stage select, although right now just stage 1 is open, and you unlock more stages by completing the stages, obviously. So if we jump in, I have made the controls a little bit more clear. There's obviously new animations, so Iggy's been completely rebuilt. He's got all of his frames of animation are completely redone. He's got a new run cycle, which was done using Spine, and if you follow my channel, you've seen some of the process of doing the keyframes for that. I've added the scrap that you can collect. These are little gears that you can collect, and there are 20 of them in each stage. Now, if I were to quit out, I could still keep all the progress of all the scrap that I've collected, so it's got a little bit of a collectability to it now. I've also eliminated the multiple speeds. So now there's just one speed. It's just go fast. You can't really. I found that just most of the time I was holding down the run button, and it was just kind of frustrating, and I asked too much of players. So it's really just it's a 2-button game now. So there's interface. You can interface with these door locks, and you can jump, and it's a variable jump, and that's pretty much it. There won't be like a ton of new abilities added or anything like that. I'm trying to challenge myself with game design within the confines of that. Now, I'm not really going to try to collect all the scrap here. I'm just going to go through the stage as it is. I did move around some doors because one thing that happened here was I got some feedback that sometimes you're hitting a switch, such as that yellow switch over here, and you didn't notice that the door itself was unlocking because the door was off of the screen. So I moved any doors that might be affected by switches to areas where you would actually see that correlation, so that when you hit that yellow switch, that yellow door opens, for example, on screen, that sort of a thing. I added some little challenging areas like that to collect more hidden scrap. Some of these are pretty challenging, actually. There was a bit of a graphical update as well, where I've gone through and added more details to things, such as some of the saw blades, some of the because before some of them would kind of hang out in the air, and they were really just there for gameplay purposes, but they weren't really polished or clean, for instance. Some of these scrap are going to be very difficult for you to get, and there's still that fundamental challenge of getting the 100% on each stage, which I'll explain a little bit more after we finish this stage here. And then, of course, getting to the end just sends you back to the stage select. But we do get a stats update here. So you can see that I've completed 46% of this stage. My best time is 2 minutes and 45 seconds. But if I want to get 100%, I'm going to have to get all 20 of the pieces of scrap. I'm going to have to rescue 2 hidden bots somewhere in the stage, which we saw one of those with a little cross popping up over his head. These are like Jinjos from the Banjo-Kazooie games. And I'd have to get under 1 minute and 37 seconds to get 100% on the stage. I could retry from there, but instead I'm going to go back to the world map. And as you can see here, I've got the javelin, which allows me to travel between the different stages. And then, of course, down in the bottom right corner, we have a total game complete percentage, which kind of gives us a little bit of an indication of how much of the full game we've seen, how many of the challenges we've completed, and just what our overall full game progress is. And this world map does scroll as well, and ideally it would be nice to continue to add to this game, but it really does boil down to the feedback that I get from you guys. So much of this experience, so much of this process is about that communication that we have. I've gotten some really nice feedback from people that have helped me to improve the gameplay. For instance, there's no time limit anymore on stages. You can spend as long as you need or as long as you want. There is no limit on your number of deaths as well. Like you can, if I were to die, I just start this little room over, but I've got all the scrap that I collected from this room, and the progress that I've made is retained. It's stored. It's not something that you lose. So I've just found that was one of the points of frustration that a lot of people had. And I wanted to reduce the frustration while still keeping the challenge. And if that just means adding more challenging stages, but giving the player infinite lives, well, that's a pretty good trade-off. I found that the game is just a little bit more accessible now. It's just a little bit more fun without the painstaking moments of feeling that, oh my gosh, I have to start over completely, for instance. You might die, but the consequences are very short, and then you get right back into getting through that room again. And overall, just a more streamlined experience, and I'm constantly kind of adding new things to it. I did like how there was a timer though, but I might use that for some smaller challenges within rooms, but I don't want it to be a stage-based challenge. I don't want it to be something that players get frustrated with and then feel, oh my gosh, I have to go all the way back and do all of those stages again and lose all of my progress and all of my momentum. So it's your feedback that's really making the game better, and I'm learning a lot as a game designer. I mean, I've got a lot of experience doing concept art, but that's a very different thing. Game design is so much about psychology, and it's so much about player experience. Even at Blizzard, you'd be surprised just how much they rely on game testers and game players' feedback in order to make a better game, and that's really what this is about. So the more people can play this, the more feedback I'll get, and the more you kind of get a little bit of a sense of being involved in the game's development as well, which is certainly makes it better for everybody that's playing it too. So, all right, dudes, that's it for me on the Ikeda game. If you want to play it, head on over to that Gumroad link and pick it up. And don't forget to send me a couple of letters. Send me some feedback. Let me know how you're performing, what's your best time on stages, and are there areas that you feel like are just way too tricky, way too early in the game? All that stuff is going to make it better. I will have more art videos coming up soon. Just wanted to take a little break to update everybody on the progress of the game. And dudes, I'll catch you all mañana, and a ciao, baby. Yeah.